So it's my turn to...
Yep.
All right, go. So, I hate it when I start with so or I'm so sick of those words, by the way. Welcome to episode number 18 of Broken by Concept. My name is Nathan Mott. I'm joined here by my co-host, Curtis Morgan. I help people get better at jungling. Curtis helps people get better at the middle lane.
That's right.
That's right.
Very well put.
We're back in business, Curtis.
Yeah, we're on I was going to say I was going to call the couch something else, but let's just call it the couch.
The couch.
We're back on the couch. Not the casting couch, the couch.
Couch Curtis, someone says.
Couch Curtis.
People like to call you Couch Curtis. Yeah. You're so lucky it's so close to Coach.
Coach. Couch Curtis, Coach Curtis. So we got some new chords here. Nathan said the quality is even better than before.
I think I'm liking it. They're very like short, so we're like...
Yeah. I don't know if you can actually see here. You know, they can't really see, but before we used to have they were at least like a meter, right? The last one's a meter and a half.
We think that was part of the reason.
Actually, no, this is about a meter, right? I think this is about a meter. Before it was like 2 meters.
2 or 3. I think it was 3 meters.
Huge, yeah. And I think we actually damaged the cords because we used to like scrunch them up. We didn't store them properly. And they were just low quality cords in general.
Yeah.
But we didn't cheap out on the recorder and we didn't cheap out on the mics. We only cheaped out on the cords. Now we've got good quality cords, good quality mics, and... you know, the lighting and everything. So
literally back in business.
I mean, this shouldn't screw up theoretically. We should be all good from now on. Okay.
People on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, they're going to love us.
Yeah.
It's going to be such
crisp.
Clear, crisp audio.
Clean.
Because we had the issue as well that you brought up on the, when we would talk over each other.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Like when we were doing it on the online thing. I mean, what do you even call that? This computer setup.
Well, let's just call it, the online version. We would talk over each other and then like you wouldn't pick up someone's audio because there's like a lag and stuff like that. So. Not optimal.
But we're still going to use that for guests.
So our next episode,
we're going to have a guest.
100%. 100%.
Okay, cool. Yep. Let's do it.
All right. So next episode, we're not going to share who it is yet, but we're going to have a guest for our next episode. And then when we don't have a guest, it's just going to be us two back on the couch.
Yep.
Alternate.
Yep. We'll alternate throughout the episodes.
Cool. So,
where do we want to start, Curtis?
Well, it seems like I've had this requested. I just came back today, come to my computer, and there was a ridiculous amount of requests, both in my DMs and on the Discord server.
We also got an email about it.
An email about talking about this DOPA post that was on Reddit. And essentially, it's the title of the post is DOPA reveals his secrets after his last season, part 1. It'll be interesting to see if there's other parts to this in the future. But essentially, he shares, a bit of his insight into the way he views the game, why he's so successful in solo queue. And he kind of goes into very specific details, which I like. I like the specifics. And I think we're going to speak about this for a while. I think there's a lot to unpack here. And this, I've studied a lot of DOPA, and a lot of the things within this video I've kind of understood just by watching so many of his VODs. Like I've just really studied so much of it. So,
would you say he's probably the mid laner you've studied the most over the years? Because he's been the most consistent high player. Or would it be Faker? You probably haven't studied Faker that much. You don't talk about him that much.
No, nowadays. I actually have.
You
Faker
did a lot?
Is because Faker plays so many champions. If you want to see how a matchup is played, Faker has played it.
You just go to a Faker VOD and you'll be like, okay,
because
cool.
If you just type in, it doesn't matter what the matchup is, there's a Faker VOD of it. Because he has one of the deepest champion pools in the mid lane. So I would say DOPA is up there, at least in the top 3. I would say I've watched a lot of Faker. But DOPA is probably a close second, or even tied first with Faker.
Was DOPA to learn Twisted Fate because you're a big Twisted Fate player, or was it more about mid lane stuff or matchups, or how to play into Twisted Fate?
Well, DOPA's champion pool just resonated with me because I was always obviously an Orianna player.
He literally plays Orianna.
And one thing that inspired me with DOPA is like if he was having success with Orianna in one of the most aggressive servers in the world in Challenger, I was like, all right, I'm obviously doing something wrong because I thought Orianna was unplayable.
Yeah.
Right. And then it kind of he made it work. I'm like, and that inspired me to like really figure out what he was doing specifically. Twisted Fate, I've always kind of watched his Twisted Fate, but it feels like his Orianna was what I guess inspired me the most. because Twist of Fate as a champion is inherently good in solo queue. You have a point and click stun. You have an ability that can teleport around the map and snowball side lanes. It makes sense to be good in solo queue. Which, yes, I learned a lot from his Twist of Fate, but his Orianna was one that I'm like, wow. Orianna is traditionally not the best solo queue champion. You have no CC, your gank setup's subpar, you generally take a while to spike, and you can't really adapt to chaotic, fast-paced games. But he figured out a way to do so.
I've always thought it's the other way around, Curtis. I think that you're literally distorting your perception of Twist of Fate. Isn't Twist of Fate by concept a more competitive champion than a solo carry champion? Is Twist of Fate good in low elo, Curtis?
Twist of Fate is not a solo carry champion at all.
Oh, sorry, that's what you're saying. Is a competitive pick.
No, I'm saying that Twist of Fate is inherently better in solo queue
than Orianna.
Yes, even though Orianna is a carry, more of a carry.
A scaling champ.
In high elo challenger, it's not about carrying.
That's correct. Yeah, but you're distorting.
If we're going to talk about specific ranks, Orianna is definitely better than Twist of Fate in lower elo.
Yeah.
But as you get to Diamond 1 Plus, Twist of Fate
Yep.
traditionally has been way better because it's not about being a carry. It's about doing a job and facilitating other people to carry.
I just want to clarify that. Because, and again, how interesting is that? Just the way it differs between elos. You know? Like, why specifically does Twist of Fate work in high elo than low elo?
Okay, so low elo games get extended. There's a few reasons. So first of all, the average game length in low elo is longer because people don't know how to end games effectively. Their lane assignments are sloppy. They don't stack dragons. They don't take Rift Herald on spawn for obvious reasons. Also, the other big one is if you do get a lead for your side lane, it's unlikely that they know how to translate their lead effectively. So yes, you may go top twice and get 2 kills for your...
But they don't mean anything, yeah.
Well, no, they do mean something, but it's less reliable. It would mean more in high elo to get 2 kills because they really know how to snowball their lead. And also, because Twist of Fate doesn't have sustained damage, he can't actually carry a game. You carry by being a facilitator. The way you carry, quote-unquote carry, is actually by getting other people fed. Because when it does get to late game, Twist of Fate, yes, he's okay, but he's more of a setup. Because he doesn't have enough burst to one-shot someone. So this is where he's kind of... Okay, if you think about most champions in the game in the mid lane, you're either a hardcore burst-oriented champion, or you are sustained damage, or your utility. You kind of fall into one of those brackets.
Categories, yeah.
And Twist of Fate is a combination of burst, but not insane burst, and then utility. He's the combination of both. And because he doesn't have insane, ridiculous amount of burst, he can't just one-shot someone, and he doesn't have insane sustained damage, he can't really carry it or take over a game. So if he's the only one that's fed, you've probably done something wrong, and it's going to be difficult for you to win that game.
Got it.
Not to say you can't play him in low elo. It's just less reliable, and you got to be more careful when you pick him. And
in lower elo, Orianna's not going to get punished in lane. You're not going to have to worry about going to fighting over objectives. Well, it's actually how do you carry with Orianna in lower elo?
Well, it's less about not getting punished in lane. It's the fact that she has tools to be independent. She has tools to be able to minimize tough matchups without getting that far behind at all. And she has the ability to, in a favorable matchup, take over a game because she does have low cooldowns. She has high range, and she does a lot of sustained damage in a fight if you do choose to go the Archangel's route or if you build more sustained damage items. And the great thing about Orianna in solo queue is that she can adapt her build to whatever what role she needs to fit. You can go a very burst-oriented Ludens into, Ludens into flat pen, an Oblivion Orb into Sorks, and just play for very early spike and early bursts, more between level 6 to level 9, that sort of thing. Or you can go very scale-oriented build Archangels straight into a Death Cap. Or you can do tank shred builds where you go Archangels into Liandry's. There's always things you can do with your build to adapt to what your role is in that game, based off the champions within the game.
Are all those items still in the game in Season 11?
Liandry's, Archangels, yes, it's different. They're all a little bit different, but Archangels...
They didn't get changed that much.
Archangels got significantly changed. Okay. That's the one item that's very different. I'm going to talk about that within my item video coming out in the next day or two.
Yep.
Liandry's is basically the same, but now it's a mythic item. And I believe, off the top of my head, I believe it also gives ability haste, which it didn't give before. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe it does. And also, obviously, it gives mana. And Leandro did not give mana before. It gives 600 flat mana.
Okay.
which makes it a pretty good first item. Whereas before, Leandri's couldn't really be a first item because it didn't give mana, which is solid. But yeah, again, I'm going to talk more about the items later on. And Death Cap is, I believe, more expensive.
Yes, Death Cap's incredibly expensive.
So it's not as valuable. It's fine, but it's not something you want to rush as much anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're talking about effectiveness and low A. Okay, so yes, because he's very independent, low elo, and also I would say, like you said, game length are extended. So if Orianna does get to 3 items for free, then you can kind of take over a game. And I would also say, I would say it's relatively easy to execute. Because the thing is with Twist of Fate, how people talk about Twist of Fate, learning the game through Twist of Fate because, I can learn macro and things like that. I don't recommend that. I've never recommended that.
Yeah, that's probably not a good...
Because the reason, he has very weak laning. He's one of the weakest laners in the game.
Yeah.
So it's actually hard. He's hard for a different reason. He's not hard because his abilities are difficult to use. He's hard, or mechanically. He's hard because he's low range and his laning is very weak and it's hard to get priority in matchups. Whereas Orianna has low cooldowns, high range, and decent damage from the early portion of the game. So it's much easier to execute for a lot of players.
This is quickly how I sum it up playing against Orianna and TF. Orianna, I can do anything I want in the early game. I don't have to worry about mid lane. It's about crab fights and that sort of stuff. Scales, like I have to end the game because she's going to outscale.
Yep.
And then this is just in general narratives that I tell myself. And Twist of Fate, I just got to be terrified of every side lane gank. And that's about it.
So do you like versing Twist of Fate or not?
I think I can play against it, but I haven't played against very good Twist of Fates.
Yeah.
But I would rather play against a Twist of Fate than an Orianna.
And you have like a...
I feel like if you're just literally on ball about Twist of Fate, you're pinging your team about Twist of Fate ult, Twist of Fate ult, he'll just screw up a Twist of Fate.
He'll mess it up.
Yeah.
Most Twist of Fates will just panic.
They panic because they panic and they look for ult. Like, I never see a Twist of Fate just sit on their ult.
Just hold it.
To level 10.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that's the case.
Yeah, sometimes you got to hold it. And it's the threat of holding it which just generates a lot of pressure as well.
I can do nothing.
Yeah, you can't do anything.
I hate Mercer.
It's very annoying. If the Twist of Fate has a very high skill cap if you can understand the champion.
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult champion.
He's a definition of perceived threat.
Yeah. Like with Blitzcrank and Morgana and stuff.
Yeah, just holding abilities. So
back to this post. Yeah, so this post got top of Reddit today.
Yeah, I believe it was yesterday top of Reddit.
How many comments? How many?
Well, now it's got 578 comments and 10,000 upvotes.
Whoa! So people really a big fan of solo queue and big fan of DOPA.
But the thing is, people don't really understand DOPA, which is actually interesting because he talks about this, how people don't understand why he wins. And I feel like this is something...
I love that. I mean, I've read the post and I love... He's so spot on with how you win in League of Legends, which is just... It destroys so many people's narratives.
No, because even the reason why it's so misunderstood, it's DOPA does things at such a deep level and Midbeast thinks he understands. Like Midbeast is the one that he's like the DOPA lover, right?
Yeah.
He's known to be like the DOPA lover.
The DOPA analyst,
right? And I think he does a good job of highlighting some of his strengths. But the thing with when Midbeast talks about DOPA, because he doesn't go into the details, I think he makes it much simpler than what people think. And there are so many little things that DOPA does that really make him shine and be reliable in games.
I mean,
It's not just waves. He talks about DOPA in relation to waves. Yes, he's wave manipulation perfect. Yes, wave manipulation is one element of it. But it's much more detailed than that. So it's the specific timing of the waves. It's the way he plays the waves. It's the way he trades specifically. He trades in a way, like we'll talk about it within this post. And anyway, I think...
So DOPA's, you could say that he's the the best solo queue player of all time.
Yeah, probably the best solo queue player of all time.
He's been the most consistent solo queue, high-rated solo queue player of all time.
Yep.
Partly because he never went pro. Obviously, let's say Faker did the same thing he did. You reckon that Faker would
I believe Faker could have easily done the same thing he did.
Yeah.
Because DOPA honed in on a few champions.
That's right.
He plays well.
He wasn't a competitive
Orianna, Twist of Fate, a little bit of Kassadin, a little bit of Fizz, and a little bit of
He never learned a rally and all that sort of stuff.
He played Camille mid,
yeah.
but he doesn't play many champions at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he can, but not to a high level. Whereas Faker has a champion Ocean and is incredibly good on a lot of champions.
And he's a world-class player competitively as well.
And I feel like Faker, his win rate... So one thing about Faker, what people don't understand is that Faker just... He doesn't. He just picks champs to learn.
That's right. He learns.
He'll just pick Silas, even though it's not a good Silas game, because he wants to practice Silas.
But Dopa plays to climb.
He dodges.
That's the difference.
Dopa dodges religiously. He like really knows. He's very specific about climbing rather than improving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very different.
And he is. Yeah. I mean, given that he's definitely the best player to never go pro.
Who else is there? I mean, who else was really good that never
Everyone
went
else
pro?
just became a pro, didn't they?
All the good solo queue players. If you think back in that, it was like Incarnation, which was Jensen. He went pro.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know any other. I mean, there's the other guy, the Chinese rank 1 player. He never went pro.
Oh, really?
He got heaps of LPL offers.
Interesting.
And he turned them all down to continue to do streaming.
Because streaming's so big for him.
Well, no, because for him, he didn't want to be locked into a schedule and have to play in the stress of training all the time and playing different champions. Like he just wanted to play what he found fun. And have like his own schedule.
Yep.
So he's another one I would say is pretty good. But anyway, we'll dive into this. Well, it starts off by talking a little bit about how he believes, every player has their own way of playing the game and their own worldview. And one interesting thing I thought was fascinating was he says, viewers frequently ask me how to get better at League, and I always answer in the same way. I just tell them to play whatever champions they want to play and just to have fun. Now, he doesn't really articulate here why that's the case, but we know this. We spoke about this briefly, I believe, in one of our other podcasts, which was I spoke about this within my my regrets of season 10 this season. Yeah. This is like kind of champion mastery. You got to view a champion as just a tool to win the game. Your goal isn't just to like do really well on a champion, like get a bunch of kills and stuff and get ahead. Your goal at the end of the day is to kill the Nexus. Okay? So a champion is just a tool. It's literally just a tool
to help you achieve that.
To help you achieve killing the Nexus. Yep. Now, the great thing about honing in on a champion that you love playing, you're going to have more motivation to figure out creative ways to win the game.
More motivation when it gets hard. When it's like, this champ just sucks. Like, I've literally played 3 games in a row. I've lost 3 games in a row. Screw this, I'm learning a new champion. If you have fun, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, because you have to... This is why I get... This ties into that question I get all the time on my stream. Curtis, what champion should I one-trick? I can't tell you what champion to one-trick. You have to love your champion because it's going to get tough eventually. And when shit gets tough, you're not going to spend... 50 games trying to figure out how to play that champion in the meta. If you don't like that, you genuinely dislike the champion, you're not going to be able to get to that level of champion mastery that is required to play at the challenger level. So I'm assuming why he's saying this, and which I totally agree with, to a certain extent, because I would say playing what's fun is crucial, but if the champion that is you find the most fun, like a very hard mechanical champion in like bronze, then I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. And then temporarily you should maybe play another champion, then come back to it.
What about champions that just straight out? So let's say this last season, I used to work with a one-trick and Moomin player.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was so capped.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like the champion just sucks, man. If you want to play a tank in solo, you play Zac or something like that,
I mean, there's certain champions.
Do you think? Like, what would it be for mid lane? Like, for me, it's like Warwick. Warwick just... I hate Warwick so much. Trundle.
I don't know. I think Warwick is a champion that can actually get high elo.
Yeah, it can, but like...
Trundle's too situational, too niche. I would agree.
Trundle's niche.
I think in mid lane...
Shyvano's another one. I mean, I hate these type of... I think I just hate the playstyle, what they teach. I think it's just because when I watch people play these champions, they have such bad habits. They're like so hard to coach because I need to go all the way back. You know why they're hard to coach? It's not the fact that they missing information in the game. It's because they're going to go so far back down in elo, it's going to demoralize them to a point where they're going to give up.
They will lose so much confidence going down the ranks.
That's what it is. It's not the.
It's not that they can't learn.
No.
Yeah, they all can learn, but that process of losing so many games and demoting all the way down to like literally like 6 divisions, 6 rank, 6 tiers, or whatever, like you're gonna be like, what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point of playing the game?
So to an extent, like
so that's what I said. I would agree to an extent. You can't just play the champ you find fun. Challenger
is Heimerdinger?
No, I reckon you can get basically any standard champ to the role, right? you're not going to play like Janna jungle, even if you love Janna.
Yeah.
Let's just say to the role.
To the role specifically.
I reckon you could play nearly every champ to at least low master.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah.
You know, I think definitely you could play champs like Heimenau, and he's been proven you can play to high low. And I think it again depends on the server you're on as well. But yeah, I could say at least low master you could play, or even like maybe grandmaster every champion in mid lane anyway. I don't know if that's the case for jungle, but I'm assuming that still is the case for jungle. But you'd have to be incredibly creative.
I feel like that to are you saying to grandmaster?
I said master.
Okay.
To at least master.
Yeah, master. I'll give or take master. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Anyway, so we established here that he recommends fun, and he says I would blah blah blah, and he would have to show. He wants to show people the world that he's built. But it's his last season of League before military service. I thought now would be a good time to at least try to make you guys understand my world of League. That's also bullshit. He's going to come back.
We always have our theory, Curtis. High-level players can never quit.
He will never quit. He will come back.
He's invested so much of his life. Think about it. It's literally probably like half of his life or a quarter.
Think about what he's going to do if he doesn't play League, Nathan. He's going to do his military service.
Yeah.
He's going to come back to his little house and wherever he lives in Korea.
Even if he's not committed, he'll be like, I'll play a game.
He'll start with a game.
Yeah.
And then...
he's addicted to just dominating solo queue.
Yeah.
I think.
You should move your mic a bit closer, I think.
These audio mics are really
they're all good?
Trust
Okay.
me. I can adjust it anyway.
Yes, there's no way he's going to quit, so don't worry, guys. I could nearly bet any amount of money that he will not quit. And he says, to understand the way I view the game, you need to understand what a concept is. So what are concepts? They're fundamentals of the game. They're things in the game that give you a huge advantage as long as you know about them. These are concepts. Okay, so he talks about these things called concepts. So as you all know, I play a lot of Twisted Fate, and let's talk about the concepts that have to do with Twisted Fate. And he thinks that there's 3 basic concepts that you have to know in order to play TF to a very high level. And he says the reason he appears to be better than others is because he is aware of these concepts that other people really don't know about. He said you could call that skill, but anyone could do what I do as long as you know about the concepts. And the reason no one can climb like me is because they don't know what they are. They literally don't. They're unaware. You don't know what you don't know. And what I love here, he says, I personally don't think I'm a very good Twisted Fate player. And I love that because I feel the same when I watch him play all these champions. You watch DOPA play. He's actually not amazing at these champions. There are players that are better.
You compare him to like Showmaker and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
they're just better.
Yeah.
Like Showmaker is literally just better at like every champion.
Yeah.
Than DOPA.
Including Twisted Fate and Cassidy and all that sort of stuff.
Mechanic, yeah, in lane, they're just straight up better.
Yeah.
But they don't have the understanding of the champion to that level. So like, okay, so let's clarify what I mean by better. They're better micro-wise, hitting the skill shots, taking better trades. They understand like the laning aspect of how to take better quality trades and actually navigate the champion in team fights and skirmishes just better. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they are better at winning the game with that champion. I think it's a very big distinction we need to make there. All right. So is there anything you want to cover before I go any further here?
Yeah, I mean, I love what he said here, this specific quote. It's under the little subheading, concepts and laning. Are these concepts hard? No, they aren't. Most of you could use them if you knew about them. However, you can't utilize these concepts in-game because you don't know about them.
Yep.
But you know, he says, like, are they hard? It's like, no, they're pretty simple. And that's all what League is. He's doing the simple things consistently. And DOPA is very... you know that DOPA is one of the first people... I remember watching a Season 3 montage or something like that of him. And because I was just curious, what does the number 1 player in Korea play like?
When was this?
Season 3. And
you watched him in Season 3?
Yeah, I remember he was playing Lulu mid and stuff like that, right? And the way that I viewed like a rank 1 playing Korea, you're like insane because that was like Faker time. But he was high elo than Faker at that time.
Okay.
The way I think it was end of Season 3 or something like that. And he was just doing all the tiny details just perfectly. Like his auto attacks, his tethering with like Lulu and stuff like that, you know? And it really, I already sort of like understood it because I mean, at that point I was like rank 2 challenger. But he solidified it. It's like League is literally all about, and there's levels of this. It's like it's about the tiny little details, like the way you, like, for let's say for the jungle, they're missing an auto attack. I mean, not auto attack. Like, let's say you accidentally auto attacking a mini raptor versus the big raptor. Like, yeah, they don't really mean much, but they start adding up, and it's so important to internalize that.
I would say that that's what makes Showmaker. Okay, so you remember that in the last episode we spoke about what these players do on the surface may not look amazing. The difference between some of these players, like you look at them at face value, what they're doing is just, like you said, they're doing all the basics, the fundamentals incredibly consistently.
Which doing them takes a lot of time to master anything. It's still hard
but doing
to do.
something consistently is
That's
very
the hard
hard.
part. That's the hard part.
Think about how chaotic the game is of League of Legends.
Yeah.
It's difficult, extremely difficult to do.
We talked about the complexity of the game. You know, it's like how you got to think about the fundamentals when this random guy's flashing on your head. He comes from no vision that you thought he was on the other side of the map.
If we were to put out, say, in some weird, we had the technology to replay an exact moment, right? Let's just say we had the ability in League to go to a specific play or a specific moment in a game. And let's just say it's like this crazy, chaotic Baron fight. You get a player like Showmaker or Knight or one of these like exceptional mid laners, they will play that fight nearly flawlessly. If you played that fight 100 times, they would play it nearly flawlessly. I would say 90% of the time, 95% of the time. Now, what they do, if you break it down into individual things, isn't that special. You know, maybe they block an ability with the spell shield, then they ult onto the correct target, they predict the flash of the person, and they dodge a few skill shots, and then they clean up the fight. In isolation, if you were to break each of them down, it's really not that difficult. It doesn't require insane mechanics, but it's the ability for them to execute that over and over,
no matter what's
and
thrown
over
at them.
again. It's the consistency is incredible, and that's the thing I admire so much. When you watch Showmaker on his stream, it doesn't look like he's doing anything crazy, but when someone is walking by and he's playing Zoe, he will not miss that bobble. He just won't miss it. But the fact that he won't miss it is incredibly big.
Yeah.
There's no his skill shot accuracy. There's these concepts that he's really just honed in on, and there's fun at a fundamental level. So I think that's an important distinction to make. They're not doing anything special, and it's the way you do it, and it's how consistent you are at doing it is the crucial thing. And I actually kind of think that's the difference between DOPA now, though. I actually don't think DOPA is like that anymore. Maybe he was in Season 3, but I believe that's not what makes DOPA special. I believe what makes DOPA special now, he's actually not consistent mechanically. He makes a lot of mechanical errors in lane especially. But he is able to be very reliable with the way he views his champion identity. He doesn't compensate. And he knows how to put himself in like just lane macro wise. He knows how to replicate situations. And he talks a little bit about one of the specific strategies with Twist of Fate, which we'll get into as well. I believe that's what makes him special now. Because he can't be consistent in lane comparatively to the laners like Showmaker. He just can't. He can't match up.
So do you want to go into, what are you going to go into
All right,
now?
so the next bit here, it talks a little bit about runes and spells. I don't think we need to go too deep here, but this is what I always reiterate in my content, where runes and spells, you got to think of it as like the underlying, what's the identity? What are the key strengths, or what are you gaining and losing by opting in for this specific rune and spell or item choice? This is why item theory and rune theory, and why I did those videos in the first place, are so important. We are now more than ever, the way the game is evolving, you need to be able to understand items and the way they operate, what the strengths and weaknesses are, in order to adapt your build game in, game out.
Absolutely.
It's the difference between 100 or 200 damage sometimes in a fight, which is huge.
Absolutely huge. It's game
It's
changing.
literally game changing. So you can't afford to do a cookie cutter build all the time anymore. You got to understand how it works. And not only how it works, but why it works the way it is. Then you can adapt your gameplay to complement the strengths of the item. That's why DOPA, if you look at his runes and itemization at face value, and you just randomly start using it in your games, it won't make much sense. Because, I mean, unless you understand the way he complements the items, it doesn't mean anything. He goes Corrupting Pot with Simultonic on Orianna, sometimes with double resistances, and rushes Ludens. He always goes for a Darksteel Doran's base, pushes the pace of the game, heavy trades into an early recall, creates a resource advantage, creates an XP and gold advantage, and then that small lead turns into a tempo advantage, which turns into river control, which turns into him being able to take over the game at the Lost Chapter Spike or whatever it is. He plays at a very fast-paced game. If you play slow, take Time Warp and Corrupting Pot and extend the laning phase to 1300 gold, you're not really going to get any value from it. And the enemy can actually capitalize on that and be maybe stronger than you and actually have a better 2-item spike than you or whatever it is. Like there's always trade-offs. And I feel like basically what he's getting here is he says runes are balanced, so using one rune over the other is a matter of taste. The important thing is that you need to play according to the runes and spells that you've chosen. So the two major rune builds for TF are Unsealed Spellbook with TP and Electrocute with Ignite. Think about how you would lane when using with these runes and spells. More importantly, think about how your playstyle should change. This is where game pace comes into play, the types of trades you take. This ties into the way these items and spells and runes affect the champion's identity. When you have Electrocute, you should passively until level 5 and avoid trading whenever you can. Try to keep the wave frozen and save as many potions as possible. When you have Unsealed Spellbook, you want to play super aggressively. I think he's actually got this the other way around, by the way.
Probably the translation.
I think the translation's a little bit wrong here. Oh, but anyway, so my chat... Oh, no, never mind. My chat seems to think it's the other way around. They think that you're supposed to play aggressively with Electrocute. Wrong. The great strength of Ignite and Electrocute is the burst damage you gain when you first use your ult. You don't have teleport to... Okay, so this is interesting. So what he's saying here... So there's two options with Twisted Fate. There's the Electrocute and Ignite. And obviously the disadvantage with Electrocute and Ignite is that you don't have the utility.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the luxury to TP back to lane.
That's right.
And replenish your resources.
So you always go Ignite with Electrocute, right?
Yeah, because they complement each other.
Yeah,
right?
course.
For burst damage
and
so
you go all in on the lane phase.
This is more for early kill threat.
Yep.
Whereas Spellbook is more utility and scaling. But so basically what he's saying here is that it's actually... He's talking about how to use them properly. The way he interprets using Electrocute and Ignite, this is just for him. I kind of disagree with this a little bit, but the way he uses it is that he actually plays slower in the early lane with Electro and Ignite, so that when you do get to level 6, your burst damage for that initial ult with Electro and Ignite is available and you have it. And
so
you
you want Ignite?
Yeah, Ignite, not for the solo kill in lane, but for the kill in the side lane.
Got it.
Or the Ignite, save your Ignite for that as well.
I love that.
Which I don't necessarily agree with that.
So?
I mean...
Okay, so there is an aspect of Lee Curtis that the more the game goes on, in a way, this is very hard to articulate.
Yeah.
But the longer the game goes on, the more it kills mean, right? Like, I feel like okay, let's say if I had an option here, Curtis.
Right.
Oh, this is so hard, but I mean, this is a feeling thing more in my games. My mid laner solo killing someone at level 3 is not as impactful as them winning a fight because they have Ignite in the side lane at level 6. What do you think?
I think it really depends on the matchup, and it depends...
You see, it just depends on too much. But you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, there are some situations where a champion...
I love that philosophy, that thought process. Even though he probably doesn't even do it every game. I'm sure he probably kills people.
Let's think about this. Okay, if you... Let's just say you save your Ignite for like a level 6 kill on a side lane.
Yeah.
By the time you do that play, Rift Herald's usually up. Right? Rift Herald's about to come up, or it's usually up.
Yeah.
Or about to come up. And by that time, the enemy probably is already based once or has a lot of gold and needs to reset, or they're both quite low on resources and haven't recalled quite yet.
Well, he talks about his recall.
And this actually gives them a better first recall if they were to get it. Think about that. So let's just say, because Twisted Fate, the way this strategy would work is you'd farm to level 5-ish, tempo reset, come back, hit level 6 off the next wave. Then the wave after that's a cannon, so you have a big window to use your ultimate, go to a side lane. You say you go top. And top, maybe they've been staying in lane for a very long time. They're quite low on resources. Your top laner gets the kill. Then he's going to have a massive first recall.
That's right.
And that's going to allow him to win that lane, which then is going to allow him to secure top pressure, which can lead into a Rift Herald.
Yeah.
But let's just say you get a solo kill at level 3 or 4, or like a gank at level 3 and 4 or something. In some matchups, if you're playing like an Echo or Fizz, that early kill can actually be massive. Because it gives you the extra amount of AP for you to utilize at level 6 to increase your kill threat. But then there's some champions where you get an early kill and it's fine. But because maybe you had to use flash for it or something, it doesn't actually allow you to do anything at level 6. Like sometimes Orianna getting an early kill doesn't feel impactful to like level 9. Or something like that. There's some champions that just won't feel impactful for a while.
Of course.
Even if Victor gets an early kill, sometimes it just doesn't feel impactful for a while.
Yeah, that's right. And that's right. Like,
but it does feel big later on.
Yeah. That's why, again, I categorize TF in like those victories. Like a Talon or a Zed getting early kills, I get a little bit worried about that.
Yeah. Like an assassin getting an early kill does matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really depends. It's an interesting concept to think about.
But I love
the way he's viewing
the way he thinks about
the way he's thinking about
That's the key thing.
Because again, the way he comes to these conclusions,
it's like the thing about it's high impact kills versus low impact kills.
Yeah, high impact. Yes, high impact kills versus low impact kills.
Yeah,
which is actually ties into the thing. I guess the only example that someone might understand who hasn't played League for a long time is like this. This is a situation I talk about a lot, or I experience in my own games. There are options, and this is actually something that came with me playing Twisted Fate. I didn't even learn this from DOPA. I just picked this up tacitly by myself. And he probably knows it as well. It's probably one of these concepts he's talking about. When you're level 6, there are some games with Twisted Fate where you have a lot of options. And so, for example, there's where maybe your bot lane is actually reset. Let's just say they're both really low. And you can actually ult bot and kill the enemy support or something. You can actually kill one of them. But there's no dragon available. And it actually doesn't change the way the game plays out. Like there is sometimes a kill because your AD carry and support already have to reset. And it's not going to prevent the enemy AD carry from catching the wave onto tower anyway. The kill really doesn't mean anything.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah.
It's a low impact kill.
Low impact kill.
So what happens over time playing a lot of Twisted Fate? You got to be incredibly disciplined and understand what is and isn't worth using my ultimate for. And this just comes with experience.
This is not just a Twisted Fate thing. This is League of Legends in general.
But it's just common on Twisted Fate because you have the option. You're going to have this option.
It's very rare that... It's very specific situation.
It's very rare that a mid laner, maybe it's different for jungle, but for jungle you would have a lot of options. But for mid lane, it's very rare that you're going to have jungle, an option to kill someone and you don't want to kill them.
Yeah, that happens a lot for jungle. That's right.
That very, very rarely happens for mid laners. That's basically only for Twisted Fate.
Yeah.
I can't see another mid laner that I can even see that happening. Sometimes for Galio, where I can kind of TP to a side lane and kill them, but there's no objective there and my bot lane's already resetting. So it kills a kill does nothing.
Of course, yeah.
But the high impact kills are the ones where they've already come off a reset. They've got a lot of items. You get the kill and an objective is on that side, the Rift Herald or the Dragon. And they can use that kill to stay on the map, get more plates, lead into a Dragon or lead into a buff invade or do multiple things. It's also, another example of this, is getting a kill before a dragon spawns.
That's exactly right.
If you get a kill at say 40 seconds before say you use your ultimate. If I'm playing Orianna and I go for a roam play and kill the enemy bot lane with my ultimate 40 seconds before the dragon spawns, it does dick all.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna have to now my ultimate's on cooldown for the dragon fight.
And they're back up spawn, back already. Use a big ult and they probably didn't burn an ult maybe or flash.
And it does nothing. It
and
actually hurts you.
You could lose the game from that.
It's a losing play.
You could literally get a kill and that's what I think. Kills can lose you games.
They can actually lose you games. Or like you're playing Fizz and you blow flash ult everything for a kill that means nothing.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah,
sometimes
it's like a minute 30 to a Baron, you do that and then they're up for the Baron.
Yeah, then you have flash ult for that Baron.
Yeah, that's right.
There are situations. Now, the only reason you're able to come up with these situations is because he's not letting his dopamine control his decision making. All he's thinking about what's going to increase my chances of killing the Nexus.
He's like winning the game. He's a master of
these
figuring out how to win
aren't,
the game.
like you said, they're not complicated.
No.
He's reverse engineering.
Well, he's very good, again, the dopamine. He's very good at controlling himself, understanding. He's thinking bigger picture all the time.
Bigger picture all the time. Bigger picture thinking.
That's the key.
No, but he does bigger picture thinking. But what he does, what I respect about him, let's just say what most people do is that, especially I say this with coaches. This is what I say with coaches. What a problem with coaches, is that they're great at thinking about the bigger picture. They will be able to, really say, how
to win the game.
We need to be contesting X objective or playing the fights this way.
Yeah.
But in order to get yourself into that position, you got to reverse engineer. Okay, if I'm not going to get this, then how do I get myself into this position to like, you got to reverse engineer it. So what DOPA does is like, okay, given this is the way I want to use my ultimate, how do I put myself in this position? So then you get specific. Then you're like, okay, okay, this is the way I need to play my lane. This is the sort of item that will help me take X sorts of trades that will allow me to get this sort of base. This is the way I need to use my wards to get this result. This is the way I need to position in the lane. This is the way I need to use my abilities. Everything ties together. Everything has purpose. Everything has intention. So what a lot of coaches do is like, yes, they will have the great big picture. And what I aim to do is like, let's bring it back to them. Okay, this is where we want to be. Let's reverse engineer this and go back. What steps do we need to take to replicate this situation, or how can we put ourselves in this situation? And he's done that through a lot of games with Twisted Fate. He's like, all right, well, this situation, I won this game with Twisted Fate. How do I replicate this? What felt so good about this? Why was I able to win this game? Why did I lose this other game even though I was 3-0? Notice how this has nothing to do with score. This has nothing to do with CS values. This has nothing to do with KDAs or analytics. This is impact. This is like this is why, yes, analytics and things have a place, but they don't really have a place at this highest level because you can't measure it. You can't measure this stuff. How do you measure impact? It's not necessarily pressure. It could be pressure occasionally, and the way you use that pressure. I don't know. It's very fascinating. Anyway, so going on a little bit here. Base timing. The first basic concept you need to know when playing TF is that TF recall timings are decided in advance. Most people that play that champion aren't aware of these recall timings. This concept is probably the most important thing in regarding to playing TF. You hit level 5, use Q twice, and recall. Of course, you have to play according to the game situation and adapt to the game that you're within. If you have to recall at level 4, then you recall level 4. But the important thing is that your game plan revolves around recalling at level 5, starting from level 1. And this is what I talk about mana rationing. This is why you can't... If you're playing a champion that doesn't have mana, this is what I talk about mid fundamentals. If you're playing a champion like Katarina, a lot of the time you have no control over your lane. So how the hell are you going to replicate a situation in a lane? Yes, you can win games, but it's very difficult to replicate situations with...
Yeah, you replicate the quadrupentacle, Curtis.
Yeah, exactly. But champions like Twisted Fate, you can replicate stuff. Essentially, it talks about this concept, and essentially all this concept is where you want to be looking to base at around level 5, and then come back, tempo reset over your opponent, refresh your resources, walk back to lane or TP back to lane, hard shove into use your ultimate straight away, uncontested. And the next wave that comes out of base is a cannon. So if they try to punish you or for your roam, it's a cannon wave. So it's really difficult to do so. So essentially, it's a very guaranteed way to get a high impact roam off. I used to do this a lot when I versed assassins.
So the key thing there is again the way he thinks about that. He's not thinking about... Like he's focused. I mean, you got to be really focused in the game to be thinking about this stuff, right? There's no autopiloting going on here.
Because if you mess up the waves and you don't have the ability to level,
again, you're thinking about. So he's thinking about a minute 30, right? Ahead at this point.
No, well, he's already knows he wants to get level 5. With level 5 is probably around 4 or 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, but like for setting up the wave for the level 6 thing.
Oh, this starts at level 1.
Oh, so it literally just starts at level.
Starts
1.
at level first wave. The way you play the first waves. Because sometimes if you're playing Twisted Fate and then there's some matchups where if you hard shove, you get zero control over the wave at level 2. They can zone you and just build waves into you and just fuck you.
Yeah.
So you got to be. This is where you got to really understand the matchups. But the biggest takeaway for people, if you're listening to this, it's not about Twisted Fate specifically here. The biggest takeaways aren't about the champion.
That's right. That's what
it's about the way of thinking about the game.
Yeah.
Notice how what he's done here is he's thought to himself, okay, what sort of situations do I want to replicate with my champion? I want to replicate getting an uncontested ultimate to a side lane. How do I do that? What are the best ways to do that? Okay. And then what will happen? It might actually happen one game randomly, right? He might go to a game where it actually happened, but he didn't know why it happened. And then you go into the review and like, what happened this game? What allowed me to get this wave off? And this is why, by the way, this strategy is not always going to work. This may not be the best way to play Twisted Fate in Platinum and EU or Diamond and A. It just might not. And this is why you can't blindly follow strategies. You got to find the way you want to play. This is what he says, your worldview.
Well, yeah, he's worked this out. He worked it out himself.
In high elo challenger games, this sort of thing is incredibly effective. Definitely. And he says, yeah, the opposing mid lane can't contest your base because they need to last hit the wave. They also know that you have base, so they usually push in another wave to get the item advantage and recall. Then when you get to back to mid lane, use Q twice, shove and get level 6 and then ult, blah, 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 blah. He says, this is the first basic concept of playing TF. The difference between knowing this concept and not knowing it is huge. I'm not a great Twist of Fate player. I just happen to know this important concept. And I know this concept, so I always seem to have perfect situations for using my ultimate. It's not something you can just learn from watching replays. You have to understand the underlying concept. Yep, makes sense.
That's a good point.
All right. Next is this second basic concept. I'll show you, blah, blah. Okay, essentially what he's talking about here is about vision when split pushing. In League, minion vision is lost in the instant that they die. You can calculate the time it takes for your Q to hit the wave and then pretend to walk a different way while the minion's still alive.
I love that, yeah.
When the minions die, you go the way you intended to.
Yeah.
This isn't just a Twist of Fate tip, but it's it for all split pushers who have the skills that move.
Especially for junglers as well, going to the crab after a gank.
You can pretend that you're going somewhere,
so
right?
what you do is you you walk out of vision a little bit, and then you know when you're out of vision,
and then you
walk back.
Yeah. It's like utilizing how vision works, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually important as well for mid lane. If you're just in the mid, not even when you're in the side lane. Sometimes what you can actually do, say you have a tempo lead over the enemy, sometimes I'll fake walk to one side and then loop back the other side because they'll see me after they kill the wave just temporarily. And then I'll go to the other side. So they actually don't know which side I've lent onto. That's another little one you can do. But yeah, makes sense. And the third concept is also related to split pushing. As you all know, split pushers apply most pressure the closer they are to the enemy base. In other words, there are times when you have to split push in dangerous situations with zero vision. You have to do this without dying. Knowing how far you can push according to the enemy composition is important. Knowing how to run away with ultimate while split pushing dangerously is the third basic concept. Against champions like Olaf, you can just ignore them and ult away when you have to. Against champions like Elise, however, your ultimate can be interrupted by her E. So you use ult and walk into a bush. Then Elise has no choice but to use E at you because it looks like you're running away into the bush.
Yeah.
So the important thing is to wait out the skills and then ult away. This simple tip lets you split push much further. Yeah, so this is, again, he's maximizing the amount of pressure he can actually exert on the map. Because if he drags the enemy Elise to the top side, then he gets and then he says that can turn into a 4 versus 5 because the enemy member went to top lane to try and stop your split pushing. So it's like all these little details add up. That's what you said before, Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, these are very specific little... But again, I love the thought process of the details. He's obsessed. He's obsessed with these details. He goes to bed sleeping thinking about this stuff.
But you can't get this without champion mastery, Nathan.
Remember
that?
Yeah, that's right.
This all is because of champion mastery.
Absolutely. Really important to emphasize. This needs to be...
I need to do a video on it, don't I?
We need to make this to the point of meme potential.
A meme on this podcast. Yeah. Champion mastery.
Because it's going to help you, man.
I actually might do a video on champion mastery. I think it's so important.
I mean, you should be... My whole channel should be about champion mastery. That's what my coaching is actually moving towards.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I talk a lot about champion mastery, but...
I'm only focusing on a couple of champions.
It needs to be a video in itself.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I did it...
You ever made a video on it?
No, I've never made a video on champion mastery.
I mean, your guides were theoretically... in a way, but other than that, I mean, I guess they're not showing the message of champion mastery.
Yeah, I want to get across the message directly.
It's like, you gotta emphasize the fun point as well.
There's so many elements. I spoke about it within my recent video. I did talk about phase 3, champion mastery. It makes the game more fun.
Have you ever coached a player below Platinum 1 who has spoken about they want to master a champion, or they have champion, obviously they're not going to have full champion mastery because they're below Platinum 1. But have you had any signs that this person's on track to champion mastery or not even close? What do you think?
I have had a lot of people that are one trick or played a shit ton of games with a few champions. Yeah. Yes. And I would say that they had the right mentality. But for some reason, though, there's a danger. This just coincides with people who kind of hone in on champions. Is that either you're a straight up one trick, which is dangerous
because you actually have no other options.
Yeah, you have no other options, and I feel like you can't.
So you feel like if you want to properly master a champion, you have to have other options. You just chose that one.
Well, champion mastery is important, but you still can't be a one trick.
Yeah, okay.
Because again, the reason you can't be a one trick is because there's games that are just going to be straight borderline unwinnable, or you're decreasing your chances of winning so far down that there's no point. I think that your goal, though, should be tackling one at a time, getting champion, mastery on one champion, then moving to the next champion, and then having it to 3. I think you could comfortably manage 3 champions and have champion, mastery, and 3 champs.
Yep.
But generally, though, the people that have been semi-one tricks, yes, they are approaching champion mastery, but they're so mentally just like broken.
That's right.
Like,
that's my experience.
They're so like tunneled in on one way of playing the game. Like they're not actually utilizing the champion mastery element of their skill set. They actually tunnel in on like one way of playing the champion, or they have a very one-dimensional way of viewing the game. Because this I truly believe that you said this as well. You get better at your main champion after you learn another champion.
Yeah, you do.
So yes, you might be a 500 game one trick.
It's more the big factor as well is just getting out of the rut of like
it's the rut.
You get stuck.
You get stuck in a rut.
You get stuck in a rut. Like you just free yourself and then you come back.
Man.
Thank God. And you play at such a high level, even though because you actually make yourself sometimes a worse player at your one trick
because you just have this very tunneled way. Like if this doesn't happen, then I'm going to lose the game. You know, it's like you're just fucked. Like
because you lost 2 games like that before.
And you know the dangerous thing is. Because you know your champion so well, you know how fucked you are when you make that mistake.
That's right.
You know? You're like, holy shit, I just failed my level 3 gank as Elise and I'm shown on the map and I blow my flash.
And I'm an early game jungler.
Fuck.
You know? And then you just give up.
You know.
You can still win that game.
Yeah, but
it's
people
hard.
get so tunneled. That mistake means so much more.
I've done it before. I've done it so many times.
Yeah, it's like when I'm playing Twisted Fate and I screw up my first ultimate. Sometimes, like, it actually just tilted me off the face. And, I could easily win the game.
Unrecoverable.
But, like, in my mind, I put that to such a high extent that I believe it's unwinnable, you know?
I can just imagine failing your first... Like, what's the worst case scenario of failed Twisted Fate? You come, you die?
No, this is the worst case,
what's the
right?
Worst case,
the worst case... This is the worst one. I've learned this lesson, painful lesson a few times. Yeah. It's a misconception that you have to use your ultimate. Sometimes you see your side lanes, like, messing up. And sometimes you feel like you have to make a play to, like... keep in the game, but it's actually real. Sometimes it is, but there's a lot of the time it's not.
Yeah.
If you just farm incredibly efficiently, there will be a window in which you can turn around the game. Maybe get a shutdown.
This is the losers game we're talking about here, Curtis.
Sorry?
This is the losers game we're talking about here.
Yeah, kind of. But even high low, sometimes these games exist. Like there just isn't an option.
Yeah.
You just got to wait, right? And the worst case scenario for me is like, I feel like the game's like not going well, and I know it's a very 50-50 ultimate, and I know it's incredibly risky because if I don't get, say, like maybe I don't have, I'm not in a good matchup. Maybe I'm versing like an Azir, right? And I'm getting fucked 1v1. And like if I don't make a side lane play, I'm just going to slowly lose my lane. And I know that it's not really the case. Like I can just get a Mercs and still farm relatively strong. Because Azir, even if he gets one free item, it's not the end of the world. You can just CC him and burst him. Anyway. You go for this ultimate when you haven't really shoved out the wave properly, and it's a 50-50 ultimate. They just flash away. The Azir gets 2 plates mid.
Oh, okay. That's really bad.
And then the jungler just like kills your bot lane.
Yeah.
And you get nothing top.
Yeah. That's
and it just feels terrible. And you're like, I have to then walk back mid. I lose 2 or 3 plates. Azir gets, I lose. So
you
like
walk
2
back,
waves.
you don't recall,
well, sometimes I have to recall because I've used all my resources.
Yeah.
Or I got chunked or whatever. Or sometimes I even use flash to get the kill and it doesn't work as well. And that's the worst. They're the worst case scenario. So I lose waves, I lose plates, I burn my flash, burn my ultimate.
And you feed an Azir.
And Azir's just getting like incredibly far ahead. So there's those situations that are just unbelievable. I'm sure you've done similar things with Nunu, right? Or something. Where you've just made incredible compensation plays.
The biggest one is like, for some reason, the biggest one is like, it's not so much compensation. Like mid laners with barrier recently. Yeah. Like a barrier, like I feel like I know my damage, I kill them, but
barriers are like kind of OP, right?
It's so busted, dude.
Like barrier is so underrated.
It baits me, dude. It baits me.
That's what it's designed to do.
And I just die.
It's a baiting. It's a
Give
baiting
double
spell.
buffs, GG, dude.
I think it's really underrated.
Yeah.
I got inspired by that Cassier guy. He takes it every game.
Yeah. I hate it because no one takes it. That's the thing. Because
no one takes it. Yeah.
And then everyone get angry. It's like, man, he a barrier,
and it's such a low cooldown. It's one of the lowest cooldown spells.
Fascinating.
That's why it's so annoying. I hate it. I get tilted as well when I verse barrier because I just can't do anything.
Maybe I'll start playing jungle with barrier smite.
No barrier smite, Jesus. Like Elise. What would you take it on?
It's a skirmishing jungler.
You take it on like Hecarim or something. Just bait people.
No, Ignite's
How
probably
could you
the way to
bait
go.
people with barrier? What champion could you
You
bait
would
people?
definitely bait people pretty hard with some...
Kha'Zix?
Yeah, Kha'Zix could be
Kha'Zix
one.
can maybe use it.
Yeah.
Something as skirmishes get into the thick of it.
Yeah.
So we're going here. You got to find a balance. You can't just hone in on one champion. That's where champion master is a concept that is incredibly important, but it's not everything.
No.
And there's dangers to it.
Yeah, there is dangers to it.
So you got to find that balance there. You know.
There's always everything.
Yeah,
Moderation
everything in
goes.
moderation, but definitely put an emphasis on champion
yeah,
mastery.
yeah, but don't moderation.
Anyway, so we'll go on a little bit more here. Yeah, he said here, are these concepts? Yeah, he said, are these concepts hard? No, they aren't. But most of you could use. You said this right. Most of them could use it. Most of you guys could use it if you knew about it. Blah 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 blah. He said there are concepts regarding laning too. Let's see. Let's talk about the Orianna versus Lucian matchup. Off the top of my head, here are some laning concepts. So basically what he talks about here, he talks about how you just heavy trade with the Lucian in the early game, especially when he has Doran's Blade. And then you trade fast and you recall, and then you kind of like TP back and you can get like a resource advantage. Especially because he goes Corrupting Pot with Orianna and Time War Tonic, and then he just insta-recall. He does this all the time. And yes, he takes unfavorable trades. He'll take such bad trades. This is actually something I kind of disagree with DOPA, because the trades he takes at level 1 are so bad.
Yeah.
That like, it's like, come on, dude. Yes, I understand that you have this resource advantage and I have this strategy, but he takes them so, like, sometimes I've seen him where he gets like chunked to 40% HP or like
Before
50%.
the waves come.
No, like level 1. He'll lose like 50% HP.
Yeah.
And he gets like 15% off the Lucian.
Yeah.
Like he takes incredibly
that's
bad
a really
trades.
bad trade.
But he just heavy trades first 3 levels and he just TPs back with like a Dark Seal.
Got it.
And then gets like the
Against
gets the
Lucian, who
freeze.
doesn't have TP. That sort of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I feel like you can do it a little bit later. You don't need to do it level 1. Just wait till like level 3, level 2. You can still do the similar thing. He says, now, how to find concepts. Now that I've explained what concepts are, it's time to tell you how to learn these concepts. There's no point explaining concepts. The important thing is teaching you how to learn these concepts. If you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but teaching him how to fish, you'll keep him fed for life. Makes sense. When you play the games, there are games where you get shit on. If you aren't winning indefinitely, you'll lose at some point. When you lose, that's when you look at the replay. What put the enemy mid laner in a superior position? What did they do differently? What kind of situation did they create? That's what we're kind of talking about before, right?
That's right.
Of course, it's impossible to completely control every aspect of the game. You're looking for what they did better than you. Not just what happened, but why it happened. You have to look for the cause, not the result. They might not even be aware of why they won, but you have to, which is what we're talking about. You have to analyze why that certain situation occurred. Back in the day, I was famous for my Kassadin. Did I develop the build? No, I didn't. I was crushed by a famous Kassadin player and I stole his build.
I love this. I love this bit.
And then I perfected it. There was a period when I didn't play much TF because I didn't think it was a very good champion. Then I found this TF1 trick on the Chinese super server and learnt how to play the Unsealed Spellbook TF by watching his replays. I never created these concepts myself, but stole them from the other players. I was always better than them. I was always better than the original players because I kept on thinking about the reasons, the causes, instead of just playing. There are people who were similar in skill to me in previous seasons who are now washed up and struggled to get out of Diamond. The difference between me and them isn't in mechanics. This is how I feel about me, dude.
That's right.
I literally feel about this me.
Yeah.
The difference between me and them isn't in mechanics. If I don't update my concepts, I'm just another Diamond player. If those players were to learn all of these concepts that I know, then they would be around the same level as me. I myself would just be another Diamond player if I didn't absorb new concepts all the time. I kept updating my database of concepts, and that's what kept me up the top. That's how I feel, dude. I had to learn how to play Orianna and Twisted Fate and all these champs this year. What allowed me to climb last season would not have allowed me to climb this season. Straight up. The way I played the champs.
And last season you didn't learn, and this season you learned? Or like you're actively seeking new concepts, like what he's talking about here?
No, it felt like for me, the past, excluding this season, because I was a coach, I wasn't really honing in on solo queue. I used the same strategies and I relied on my champion mastery to win games. I didn't use like specific, I didn't replicate specific situations. Like, I kind of knew tacitly as Orianna, like, what situations I wanted to bring about. Because in Season 7, I got 1,000 LP with Orianna. With no specific concepts. I just played it, and I was very, very good at Orianna. That I just won games. Season 8 and Season 9, I kind of abused the same things. And then this year, season 10, they didn't work anymore. So I had to literally relearn the game with all my main champions. But I also had to focus on my micro. But yeah, I mean, I think that's an amazing post and very insightful.
I mean, I just love that bit there saying like, and this is like where
It's not
Reddit analysts and stuff come in. It's like, dude, just someone's figured this out, steal it, and then make it better. Again, thinking about the why.
Yeah, it's not how you win, it's why you win.
Why you win.
It's the way you do it.
That's such a little beautiful quote. You didn't make a video on that, Curtis, as well.
Well, because the reason I'm so passionate about that specifically is because we had to figure that out in Direwolves. We won every single scrim.
Mm-hmm. But we
failed at this, but it was what we tried to do.
Yeah.
Which was, we could have just been happy with winning every single game. But what we realized, it's not about how many games you win, it's the way you win those games, the way you get those leads. How were we creating those leads?
That's why looking at games, reviewing games you won. Some people also ask me as well, Nathan, do I review games I lost or won? The games you win are actually sometimes more valuable.
Sometimes
better.
What did you do specifically?
Because it's like, actually, I shouldn't have won this game, really. I got lucky because, and this I need to refine my thought process.
There were so many games I win that I shouldn't have win, and I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
But that's sometimes that is also sometimes the way solo queue works.
Sometimes
the way solo queue works, Nathan, is that you mess up, but you can still have a role in that game. Just because you make a mistake in the early game doesn't mean you don't deserve to win. You know, in your mind, you can put an emphasis on that.
Yeah, that's a toxic mindset.
It's a toxic mindset.
Deserve to win, yeah.
Because other people in that game deserve to win if they did well.
That's right.
You know, it's very selfish.
Yeah, it is very selfish. Again, it's sort of like to protect your ego.
I'm so fascinated if half your voice gets picked up or not.
Why?
This is you. Yeah, so... Or like, you know,
Yeah, this will be fine.
I'm fascinated. I mean, I don't know tech.
I looked at these. I compared these marks of the thing. I mean, there's probably going to be some occurrences, but Curtis, it's just these marks are too good. This new chords, Curtis, they're like making me invulnerable. I feel like because these chords are like golden and
I told Nathan if he ruins these chords, because Nathan like scrunches them up and doesn't know how to take care of tech.
Yeah.
So if these are ruins, this is it.
This is the end.
We're going back to the online one forever.
That's not going to happen.
So it's all Nathan.
If that happens, you guys need to roast Curtis to the point where that's...
No, they'll roast Nathan to the point where...
But that's unfair, Curtis.
No such thing as unfair. You have a chance.
Eventually. Technology always dies eventually, Curtis.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the cord though. It can be, if it's any other reason...
It doesn't have to be the cord.
If it's the mic, just randomly screws up with the recorder, I don't care.
Yeah,
but if it's because you mistreat these cables, Nathan...
Yeah.
It's done.
All right.
I'm done.
Well, let's that will have to be a conflict session later.
Yeah, conflict session. All right, so we got any emails that we're going to cover today?
Yep, let's get into the Q&A section. I need to change the battery, so we're going to do the old school broken by concept techniques. So we'll be right back in 2 seconds.
All right, we're back. Before we jump into the Q&A, I literally just saw that the part 2 of that DOPA thing got released.
What a coincidence.
So what we'll do is we'll leave it at what we've done today, and then in our next podcast on the couch, we'll go over the remainder of it and cover the rest of it.
Yep.
Because that actually might be it could be a whole nother hour and a half.
Yeah, because we literally just spoke about this one Reddit post for a long time.
Yeah.
All right.
So don't worry, we will go back over it.
All right. So, welcome to the BBC questions time. If you want to submit a question for us to talk about in the podcast, you can email us at brokenbyconceptshow@gmail.com. We read all of them, and I'm actually sorting through them all right now to figure out which ones we've answered and which ones we're not, because I think we've actually missed some over the last episode. So I'm going to really segment everything, make sure we've covered everything.
Dude, it's hot as hell in here. Are you hot?
Is it really?
Sweat my balls off here, man.
You're sweating your balls off, really? Like you're at a hard day's work, like
yeah, I'm like a building site and shit, just sweating my balls off on the couch.
I mean, it's the lights and it's getting a bit humid. Maybe I wonder if our aircon.
Yeah.
I don't think it will pick up the mics.
Will it?
I think it might be. Okay.
I think it should be all good as well, as long as it's not like tilted down. As long as it's tilted that way, I think it's all
we
good.
can try that next time, especially in the summer. We'll be
it's gonna get roasty in here. We're literally
especially these couches. Couches are not like
no, they're not good for summer, are they?
Yeah, no. We got like a winter couch.
Oh no.
All right,
Aussie summer.
Anyways, our first question here is from Jacob. Jacob says, "Hey guys, being a former athlete, I've spent my entire life obsessed by competition. Mix that with the fact that I spent my years in school also on the debate team. Naturally, I'm very argumentative. That being said, did I just pronounce that right, by the way? Argumentative. God, I'm terrible at pronouncing big words like that. That being said, I've been conditioned to believe no argument should be left without a rebuttal, making it very hard for me to not engage in the toxic arguments that ensue in a typical game of League. We know where this is heading.
Yep.
Be it to my own teammates or the enemy team, I have noticed a sharp decline in my gameplay when I do partake in toxicity. Yet I find it extremely hard to refrain. And after games, I'm not only angry at myself for playing so poorly, but also angry at the other players that I was typing at. I've been thinking about permanently muting chat in every single game. Do you think this is an effective tactic to keep myself from typing in-game, or do you think you miss out on too much information? If so, do you have any other advice or methods? Thanks, Jay.
Well, makes sense.
Yep.
If you type, your chances of losing...
You're focusing on not winning the game. At the end of the day, you're thinking about...
And you make other people play worse.
And you make your teammates play worse. You're literally decreasing... You're literally self-sabotaging
You're probably
yourself.
halving the chances of you winning that game.
Yeah, literally.
Not even...
You think it's literally halving?
Probably. Depends on how to what extent.
Yeah.
But I would say some extreme cases, you're literally halving.
Yeah.
Because some people... If they get pissed off, they will want to lose so you don't win that game.
That's right. People self-sabotage all the time.
They self-sabotage all the time, yeah.
Especially, and like, you've got the worst mix here. Like, literally being, I think, what's it called? On the debate team and stuff.
Oh, no.
That's the recipe for disaster
Yeah.
in League. Like,
okay, first thing you need to understand... It's Jacob, right?
Yeah.
First thing you need to understand, there is zero logical conversation in a League game.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter how smart you are, or how rational, or how
you
logical.
can't get any point across. You'll never get a point across.
You're never going to see this situation, Jacob. No one's going to turn around and say, you know what, Jacob? You're probably right. I actually probably did play that pretty bad, and you're just better than me. And
imagine someone typing that.
No one's going to say that.
No,
it just doesn't exist. Or even if they said that, it'd be sarcastically.
Yeah.
So what you have to realize, and what helped me realize why I stopped talking, is that nothing said in the game is logical. Everything is emotional. And even if you think about what the perfect, what you want to hear back, and it could be, oh, that's a good point, man. I think you're right. Or, oh, I haven't thought about it that way. Yeah, let's add me after. I'll add you after the game and ask you some tips on that. Or, yeah, I did play that pretty bad, and I actually probably did significantly reduce our chances of winning this game. Sorry, man. No one's going to say any of these things. No. List them all out. Never going to be said.
In a fairyland.
So you got to realize how delusional you actually are thinking by realize like what you're trying to do here. It's borderline delusional to think that you're going to get some form of logical response. Doesn't matter if you're the world's best debater, if you're like the president of the United States.
Yeah.
You're the best communicator in the world. It's never going to happen. No. Okay? So I would say that if you really can't refrain yourself, I mean, even for me, I mute all and unmute pings most games.
Okay.
Most games, I would say at least 80% of my games, I mute all into unmute pings.
I think that says enough, and you're literally top 10 challengers, so that's a...
And I would say I've relatively got a pretty good strong mental, and I still get affected, so I mute all.
Yeah.
Usually the way it works for me, though, because I mute all in games where I know it's going to be toxic, just based off the players in my game. So either you have two options. If you're really extreme case where you get affected by one word, then just mute all from the beginning of the game. Although I do think this is a Band-Aid solution, and
that's my problem with it.
It is a Band-Aid solution.
Yeah.
But I do think this will come with maturity. Like it kind of does happen. It comes with maturity. But if possible, what I would recommend is keep on chat, and until something happens, then use mute all. But if you can't do that, then mute all at the beginning. But just be wary, this is a Band-Aid solution. But I still think, for me, I mute all most of my games, and I don't really feel like it's a Band-Aid solution. Because the conversation is literally nonsensical, and it's not helping me win the game whatsoever. It's just distractions. Literally just distractions.
My principle that I teach in Soul 2 is, unless you're typing with the intention to win the game, like unless it's useful to win the game, you're literally not going to say anything.
All I do is timers, that's basically it.
That's useful to use to win the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've always struggled to relate to this question, because I like to answer this question in terms of the Band-Aid solution, because I need to know the mental state of my teammates in a way, so then I know what to play around in a way as well.
That's just bullshit.
Is that bullshit?
It's bullshit. It's just so... And I think it's bullshit that you don't get affected either. You say you don't get affected by chat, I think it's bullshit as well.
You think so?
Definitely. I could nearly guarantee it. Like, you think that you always talk about how you don't need to mute chat and like you hate muting chat. I think it's at your detriment.
You think so?
Even after all these years.
Maybe it does affect me.
Maybe back in the day when your ego was really high, but now
Yeah.
that you don't have an ego,
Yeah.
I think it does 100% affect
Oh,
you.
definitely people that say that I'm washed up and burnt toast. Eventually that beats you down.
It beats you down, dude. No one's invincible.
Yeah.
Unless you've already been
Like
world champion and shit. No one's gonna say anything.
Yeah, that stuff definitely. But in terms of like the stuff that doesn't affect me, stuff related to the actual game. So like personal attacks, like it's obviously different. But I'm in a different situation than most players. People aren't gonna know who you are, you know. So
yeah, but dude, people can make it personal. They can look at your OPGG. Like you hear shit all the time. Haha, you're a.
I guess so.
You know, you're like 800 games diamond. Haha,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
That's true.
That's personal.
Yeah, you're right.
It's still
I guess
personal.
it could still be personal.
So I think muting is a very good
Maybe
strategy.
I think it's just a good strategy. Yeah,
Like, the
it
way
just
the
gets you
game is.
clear. I mean, at the end of the day, it works. You're literally top
Exactly.
each other.
The way it works.
So if it works,
for me.
If it works,
for
it
John.
works.
That's it. End of the day.
All right. So next question is Champ Law. This is a really strange question, but I wanted to chuck it in here anyway. So this is from Grant. We've answered a question by Grant before on the podcast.
Grant.
While he was listening to one of our podcasts, he was reading some law on champions and thought, "Is this bad for my games?" My reasoning is if the champ is better in the law or different, it might subconsciously make me change my playstyle on that champ. Maybe as Urgot, I'll just be all in all the time, as that's what he did in the law. Every fight all in. I'd like to know your opinion on the law and if it helps or hurts your gameplay, or if it doesn't matter. What a strange question.
I don't think it matters. I mean, unless you're that emotionally invested into the law, like getting really hardcore into it. You know, it's like your Bible. Then, like, at that point,
but
then maybe.
the law does help for champion identity.
I can't comment because I literally haven't read a single page of law, so
Yeah.
I don't know if the identities are similar to that in game.
Yeah, I mean, like,
And I can't imagine it to be the case.
In terms of champ design, I'm talking about like champ design. The law they do
Maybe
they are tied together in some way. But
Maybe.
I mean, have you ever read a single bit of law in League of Legends?
Zero.
Me too, zero as well.
Absolutely zero.
Zero.
Not even a sentence.
Nah, me too. I don't even know how to access.
I know
the law
Bio read every bit of law.
Yeah, a former player used to.
A pro player that we used to have on our team.
He knew every. He was like a little,
everything.
He was like a knowledge base.
An encyclopedia
of law.
Everything. But I'll to be honest, unless it's like a Bible to you, I would say I don't think that would have an effect, man.
No.
Interesting question though, Grant.
Very interesting question. What interesting questions we get sometimes on this podcast. All right, so this next one's from Josh. Hey, Curtis and Nathan. First off, love the podcast. I have a job where I can listen while I work and it helps make my days go a little quicker. My question is, I've been stuck in this mental loop for 4 seasons where I set a goal for myself to get to a higher rank than I did last year before, which is a pretty standard goal. While I have achieved this goal every season, it's been where I have ended 1 tier higher than the previous year. D5, D4, D3, and now D2. Once I get to whatever my goal was for that season, it's like a switch goes off when I'm below or above my goal was. If I'm lower, I play with way more confidence and play more proactively. But once I get above it, it's like I get kicked in the nuts and I feel like I'm just playing not to lose. Even if I set a new goal for myself, it's like my head gets stuck at whatever my original goal was and I can't shake out of it. I'm in my early 20s and don't have any goals of going pro like some of your write-ins have, but I want to get masters just as my own personal achievement. What suggestion do you have for breaking out of this mental block, Josh?
I actually resonate with that big time.
You do?
Yeah. That's actually why I just play shockingly on Smurfs.
Yeah.
Because I just genuinely don't care.
You don't care.
Like I can't convince myself to care. It's,
Yeah.
it's actually a huge flaw.
Yeah.
I've identified it. and I don't know what to do about it.
You've tried. You've actively tried. It's like I'm like, all right, I know that I do this. I'm going to my Smurf and I'm gonna try.
It's just 2 different players. You watch me play on any other account
It's
apart
true.
from my
Yeah,
main.
when I
on my
duo
main.
with you, it's a disgrace.
I'm a night and day.
Yeah.
Even if I know I need to try, I can't get myself to play that same intensity. Like I'm just a different player, and it's the same for me after. So when I got my rank, my goal, and I got to like top 10 shot, like I couldn't actually bring myself to like put that same intensity again. There's something there. It's something that's not tangible. It's all got to do with this weird, some form of motivation.
Oh, well, let's say this is him on his main, right? So it's like he gets his like, oh, this
Gets his
season I'm gonna
rank.
get to D3, and then like I just give up, and like I just stopped trying because like, why can't we set a new goal?
I think because, again, what's happening there is like, it's some weird, like, I think it's kind of like it could be even an ego protection thing.
Because,
a comfortable
yeah,
thing.
comfortable.
A comfort
It's like,
thing.
like if I try really hard, it's like this is my new goal,
And I fail.
then it's like I failed this season versus I can just be happy with this season.
Because think about it like this. It's comfortable knowing that he's improved one division, what is it, tier?
It's like a nice little narrative.
It's a nice little narrative. It's like, done 5, 4, 3, 2, and I'm climbing, I'm making progress. And it's impressive. It's good. I like it. Because it actually means more than one division, by the way, because the standard of that diamond at every single season is actually significantly higher. So you've actually done a really great job. What you've done is actually quite tricky. Most players actually can't do that. So first of all, props to that. I think you've done a great job. But I think what's happening here is that you're comfortable doing what you're doing, and you're highly likely much capable of climbing much higher than you are, but you're scared of committing too much to like wanting or putting the time in and actually failing it. That's what it seems like. It's like a fear of losing type thing. As soon as you get above it, it's like a fear of failure.
Is there a point here? It's like why are we not focusing on just being the best player we can be versus rank?
I think
we're so focused on rank, and it's at an identity level for you. I think it's like I bet you go around saying I'm a D4 player, I'm a D3 player, I'm a D2 player,
rather than versus
my name is Josh, and this is the way I play League of Legends, and my rank
currently
reflects
I am
my skill.
playing at a D3 level.
Currently, I'm playing at a D3
rather than
level.
I am a D3 player.
Yeah,
I think he needs to shift the narrative away from. It's good to have a goal.
Yeah.
But I feel like the goal is still like it's just the side thing to expressing my best self and playing my best League of Legends. Like, yes, I don't expect you to go pro. Going pro is not for everyone, but you can still, the great thing about League, it's an opportunity for you to see what you're made of. You could have even got Master Tier this season. You don't know because you've obviously held yourself back. You haven't pushed yourself to what you're capable of. So I think you're right. I think you're spot on, Nathan. I think, what was his name again?
Josh.
I think Josh really needs to, next season, have a goal, right? Maybe make it I would actually make it more ambitious for starters. I'd maybe make it.
Well, he says it's Master next season.
Wait, what is he at now?
D2 this season.
Dude, go higher. Just say like
500 LP.
Yeah, just make it like a number in like 500 LP or something. Yes, you might not hit it, but at least it's you set your barrier, set your
goals high.
Set your goals higher.
So then if you miss it, you're still like higher than like what you would have set.
Yeah, set your goals higher, and then also bring it back to what Nathan said. Bring it back to like just expressing your best self. Go into every game thinking, all right, I'm going to go in, see what I'm at, have a crack, see what I can actually do this game. Hold yourself to that standard. And I always bring it back, and I say this to some of my coaching clients as well and people in my Discord. What sort of player do you want to be known as? Do you want to be known as the player that just half-asses most of their games? Or do you want to be the sort of player that, holy shit, if I verse this guy, yes, he's never going to give up. He's going to try really hard.
Even if I'm winning, like this is making it hard for me to win the game.
So there's two parts of that. Those are the main two pieces of advice I'd give.
Yep.
And the satisfaction of giving your best and seeing what you're made of trumps any result, in my opinion. If you give it your all, because the worst feeling, in my opinion, is having regrets and be like, I could have actually done higher.
This sounds like regrets. Yeah, it's like
he knows he could have done higher.
Yeah, I think so.
Such a shame. So use this as a learning experience, man. See what you're capable of next year.
All right, I hope that was helpful, Josh. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Broken by Concept. Yep. So next episode again, we're got a guest.
We're doing a guest.
And we're away from the couch. The audio is going to be a little bit different, but that's all right.
And then we will pop back to the couch and then continue on with DOPA Part 2.
Yep. That sounds like a good plan of attack, Curtis.
So thanks for tuning in, guys, to BBC episode 18, and we will see you
next time.
Next time.
See you later.